Welcome back, everyone, to my top 11 favorite LGBTQ comics of all time, number 3. Number 3, Invisible Kingdom by G. Willow Wilson. Speaking of capitalism, this is another one that highlights more societal issues as opposed to strictly queer issues, but it definitely feels the problems that queer people face every day pretty heavily. So on that note, let's talk about Invisible Kingdom and the relationship between religious organizations and capitalism. Invisible Kingdom stars Vess and Grix. The former is a newly appointed scriptorian who's a firm believer of the teachings of renunciation. The latter is a long-term freighter pilot for the mega corporation Lux, and doing her best to keep herself and her crew afloat even as her job gets harder and harder. But when Vess discovers that the renunciation and Lux have been secretly working together, she'll flee from the church and find her way into Grix's ship. Now the two must go on the run as both organizations want them dead, and decide what, if anything, they can do with the forbidden knowledge they've obtained. Quite frankly, I haven't seen many, if any, stories that are willing to make a direct connection between religious organizations and capitalism, which is amazing because it's incredibly obvious the moment you stop and give it any thought. And that's not good, because it's something we need to examine and talk about more. Invisible Kingdom is a fairly obvious metaphor for how religious organizations and capitalistic forces in the real world complement, support, and build the other up in deeply corrupt ways, and they have done so pretty much from the very beginning. Not everyone is receptive to that particular connection, as it does force people, or Vess in this case, to grapple with their beliefs and what it means in the light of this new knowledge. And thus, Invisible Kingdom provides a pretty thorough breakdown of not just that struggle, but what happens when you try to bring that to the public's attention. Because not only does it put a target on your back, but there's also no guarantee that the public will believe or even acknowledge it, complacent in their increasingly throttled way of life. But even though the public seems ambivalent to the clearly corrupt crisis, it still needs to be fought all the same. You need to understand the depths to which this all goes, how the believers or the public is openly exploited to keep these systems functioning, and redefine what it means to be a believer outside of said organizations. And just like Crowded, I don't think it's a coincidence that the two main leads are openly gay. I think that's part of the message. It's about rising above the religious dogma and practicing what faith means to you. It's a complex topic that Invisible Kingdom tackles with surprising confidence, bringing to light a long-gestating issue that needs to be talked about much more than it actually is. And that's our number 3 spot. Make sure to tune in tomorrow to see our number 2.